She's a light fury.
Oh, sorry.
Did she just disappear?
Heads up, Furies. Vanishing is difficult. I mean, I'm clone number 9, who has a genetically modified ability to vanish at will. But that's not how the Light Fury does it. Also, that genetic ability allows them to vanish, but we don't currently know where they vanish to, so at the moment there's just a bunch of clones out there somewhere. No, while a number of dragons can blend in with their environment with certain abilities, Dean DeBlois, the writer and director for the How to Train Your Dragon franchise, has confirmed that the Light Fury has her very own way of doing it. She has a unique ability of her own. She's able to cloak. She blasts a fireball, flies through it, and by heating up her skin and her scales, they turn mirror-like, reflecting their environment. So she effectively disappears against the sky, or disappears against foliage.
But how does that work, Tim?
That's a great question, you dangerously sentient foliage. A number of real-life animals have a stunning ability to blend in with their environment, and their biology may clue us in into how the Light Fury's cloaking ability works. Well, the answer might lie with the West African gaboon viper. It's a reptile, just like a Light Fury, that uses a particular strategy of camouflage. Notably, things can be seen because light reflects off them and into our eyes. So the question becomes, what if we could stop light reflecting back? The Viper uses something called the flat paint principle, because if a surface or an area is perfectly flat, then it creates the perfect surface for light to reflect off it, meaning that whatever it is becomes a lot easier to see for prey or predators because a lot more light is able to reflect off it. This Viper, however, has evolved the ability to prevent its scales from becoming flat or smoothing down. Instead, its scales grow on the molecular level in a jagged mountainous formation, meaning that when the light hits its scales, it gets scattered rather than reflected, meaning that there is no perfectly smooth surface for it to reflect off of. The result is that when the light hits the Viper's scales, a lot of it is scattered instead of reflected, making the Viper incredibly difficult to see. It's possible that the Light Fury's cloaking ability operates on a similar principle, that upon entering the extreme heat of her plasma blast, it triggers a change in her scales on a molecular level, just like the Viper, possibly creating those jagged formations, allowing her to scatter the light around her. And we know that the body parts of some dragons, like the spikes of a deadly nadder, are relatively easy to regrow, meaning that this is well within the realm of possibility, and especially given that this is on the molecular level. When you combine this ability with the dark of the night and her speed, it's no wonder that she appears to vanish. Now, we see the Light Fury vanish twice in the trailer.
Did she just disappear?
And I notice an interesting detail that might help with this theory. When the Light Fury uses this ability, she always wraps herself in her wings like a cocoon. This may suggest that these jagged scales are only on her wings, because it's not clear that the scales under her wings would heat up unless directly exposed to the fire blast. One detail to support this is that in this shot, we can see a very faint pattern on her wings that we don't see anywhere else on her body, meaning that the composition of these wings may be different. In terms of how hot these scales might have to heat up for the cloaking ability, the Night Fury is a close evolutionary relative of the Light Fury, and we know that the Night Fury has an oxygen acetylene flame. You can see the recognizable bluey lilac color here, and that burns at about 3,500 degrees Celsius, or 6,300 Fahrenheit for you heathens. But there is a definitive change in the color of the Light Fury's blast when you compare it to the Night Fury's. It has a distinctive, more reddish, pinkish color that we don't see with Toothless. Now, I am not a scientist, so I would be really interested in hearing the thoughts of those who are down in the comments below for theories that might explain this color difference. I will point out that a potassium chloride flame kind of has a reddish pinkish color when it burns, but I'm not sure how that would really work as a dragon flame. The point is that the Light Fury could have a different flame composition that either burned at a lower or a higher temperature. We don't really know, and we'd really need more information. I personally think it's probably more just an aesthetic choice, hopefully not just because she's female. So theory done, right? Well, no. So I saw this quote about the Light Fury's cloaking ability posted all over the place, and I eventually tracked it down to this site called Slash Films, which upon a closer inspection made me somewhat doubt that it was genuine, that Dean DeBlois ever actually said this. I tweeted it at him to confirm or to deny the quote, but he hasn't got back to me yet. Feeling pretty rejected right now. That's fine. That's fine.
You have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you...
So let's play with that and assume for a moment that that quote isn't true, that it was fake, because I have a different theory that I think would better explain this ability of the Light Furies, that would also be more scientifically founded. So our eyes do this really cool thing where they adjust to the level of light in a room. You know how your pupils either shrink or widen. That's because if it's dark, then your eyes are trying to take in more light so that you can see better, or if it's really bright, then they're trying to take in less light so that you're not blinded. When your eyes are adjusted to the dark, then your pupils are huge. When they're adjusted to the light, your pupils are small. But human eyes, and most animal eyes as well, have a lot of difficulty suddenly adjusting from dark to light or light to dark. Switching between those two is pretty difficult. That process of taking in more light, pupils shrinking or widening, takes a little bit of time. They have to slowly adjust because of this, and you've probably experienced this yourself. When you suddenly walk out into a bright day after spending time in a dark room, you feel temporarily blinded. That's because your eyes are really struggling to adjust to that change in the level of light. It can temporarily blind you to where that light is coming from in particular, usually the sun, which is why you're blind there, but can still see some stuff around the edges. Now it's likely that Light Furies, like Night Furies, are either crepuscular or nocturnal, meaning they come out in the dusk and dawn or throughout the night, rather than the day, and this is actually how we see her. She's in her natural habitat throughout the trailer, and we mostly see her during the night. It's my theory that when flying away, the Light Fury's blast isn't necessarily more powerful than a Night Fury's, but it is a lot brighter, a massive flash of light across the sky, like we see in the trailer. That sudden change of light in the sky causes it to appear like the Light Fury has vanished, because the fire blast is so bright that it makes those looking at it a little bit blind, especially in that area of their vision. Even if just for a few seconds, that's plenty enough time for them to either fly away or hide. But at its heart, the reason that I really feel this theory works a lot more is because it's more in line with what we see in the animal kingdom. Animals using tricks or distractions to escape their foes. Think of it like the squid squirting ink. This explanation is a lot simpler, and I think a lot less like a wizard did it than cloaking, which is really more of a science fiction term than a fantasy term. Mix this in with the naturally jagged scales thing that we talked about before with the Viper, and it would be no wonder that she could vanish, or at least be so difficult to see that it appears that she vanishes. But those are just my thoughts. If you like what Mishka does, because it's actually Mishka that writes all of the scripts, like he just dictates it to me and I write it down and the clones perform it and edit it. I think Clone 43's on the editing this afternoon. Oh, no, he died. I killed him. Tragedy, really. Feel free to come support us on Patreon for just a couple of dollars a month. We have a Discord where you can talk about all sort of stuff with us. And it's great. Cool little community. And thank you so much to all of those of you who already do. It honestly means the world. Question of the day: what is a funny story about your pet? Let me know down in the comments below. In the meantime, if you can follow me on my Twitter or Facebook or email me stuff, you may address and links in the description below. Stay nerdy, TwotheFuries, and I will see you in the future.